Welcome to the Echolink test server. This server records your transmissions and plays them back to help you adjust your transmitted and received audio. Please feel free to connect as often as you like.
Skynet will start in about 3 minutes. If you need to use the repeater, please do so now. Before the net, this is N5BB.
W5FC.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Good evening. The time is 9 p.m.
This is N5BB, November 5, Bravo, Bravo. My name's Bill. I'll be your net control for this session of the Dallas Amateur Radio Club, Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. Concerning the subject of astronomy, our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic. We encourage your participation, your comments, and your suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the prone sign, break, break, and your call sign. This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That's me. And stations are amended to identify the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using a W5FC-R station ID, which is Echolink node 37247. I am monitoring Echolink so I can see what you type over there. Bob the cat is going crazy, as well are the other cats. They're cool cats. Tonight's topics: astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. And this is N5BB. This is Skynet. You can now check into the net electronically. That's right. We're doing things in the 21st century. You can check in the net electronically by going to the club website, w5fc.org. Look for tonight's announcement for Skynet and click on the hot link to check in. We'll acknowledge you in the air, and don't worry, if you want to check in on voice or Echolink, we'll continue to do that. And I'm looking in that list, and I'll go through it in just a moment. All amateur radio operators are welcome. You do not need to be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts, which I'll go through very quickly. General announcements: Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, National Space Society, recent astronomical discoveries, discussion topic of the evening by the net control, what's up, space exploration and space history, the constellation of the week, space launches of the week, if we have time, the visible satellite passage over the next couple of days. You also can ask astronomical questions and answers. Questions, and you might get an answer. All amateurs licensed to transmit here are invited to check in. This is N5BB, and this is Skynet. Currently, we have the following people checked in online. Again, you can do this at w5fc.org. Scroll down for the Skynet announcement and click the hot link and fill out the form and file it. We have Tom, K5ICX, myself, Bill, N5BB, Cody, K5MCD, Rich, AG5PM, Brenda, WB5OZL, Tony, NT5TM, Dale, N5LIG, Chaz, with Bob the Cat, causing havoc, KF5JHA, and Bob has no call sign. Billy, KF5PDS, Robert, AA5AH, Bill, W5BLT, Virginia, W5F, NV5F, and Brian,
No.
K9AHO.
02. Timers.
So that's the people that have checked in so far. If I did not read your name, would you like to check in short time? In other words, if you can't be here very long, please check in right now with your call sign, your name, and where you're located. This is Skynet looking for short time check-ins. Unheard. So let's look for general RF check-ins. We'll do Echolink a little later. So if you'd like to check in via RF, please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location.
This is Whiskey 5 Golf Uniform Sierra, Gus, far northeast Dallas.
Kilo 5, Foxtrot 5, Zulu Bravo Lima Bill, Fuzzy Ridge. Kilo 5, Juliet Delta Whiskey, John Coppell, no cats, no dogs, no airs. This is Whiskey Bravo 4 Mike Foxtrot India WB4MFI Ted Dallas No Power.
This is Kilo Golf 5 Whiskey Victor Lima, James and Carrollton.
I would like to recognize W5GUS, Gus, K5JDW, John, KF5ZBL, Bill, WB4MFI, Ted, and KG5WVL, James. Do we have any other RF check-ins to Skynet? Let me look at Echolink. I only noticed two that I haven't already acknowledged. WD5BPX, Bobby, would you like to check in? Bobby, but we got you. I got you checked in. Haven't heard you in a while. And there's a new call for me, Jim, AG5VW. Welcome to the net, Jim. Would you like to check in on voice via Echolink? Okay, got you checked in, Jim. Okay, would anybody else like to check into Skynet via any mode? Any mode at all? If so, I'll give a big pause and come in now. This is N5DB, and this is Skynet.
This is Kilo Golf 5 Alpha Papa Lima, Hydra in Dallas.
Recognize Patrick, KG5APL. Good evening, Patrick. Okay, there's our first rounds of check-ins. Now let's get started with general announcements. Does anybody have any general announcements for the net? This can be things about amateur radio, astronomy, space, or something else of general interest to licensed hams. If so, please come now with your call sign only.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
Okay, NT5TM. Go ahead, Tony.
Thank you, Bill. Skynet is a great net, but it's not the last one tonight. We do have the Afterglow movie discussion featuring the Orion Loop from 1980. You know, if you thought they spent too much money on Solaris, or that it made too much sense, this is the movie for you. The White Rock Lake Amateur Radio Club will be having brunch tomorrow at 11 a.m. at the VFW on Garland Road. Yes, that's just what I would search for. But if your fingers are really fast, you could search for VFW6796.org. We're going to be eating brunch there tomorrow, and then we'll be going out to the Fox Hunt. The White Rock Lake Amateur Radio Club Fox Hunt will be taking place tomorrow from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Check out wa5wrl.org or the slightly difficult to type, but it kind of makes sense, ntxardf.org. That stands for North Texas Amateur Radio Direction Finding.org, ntxardf. Of course, the Dallas Amateur Radio Club has fun in store tomorrow as well. The meeting on the air will take place at 7 p.m., and the Racy's Training Net tomorrow will take place at 8 p.m. Both are on this repeater. Everyone is welcome to check in to the meeting on the air. I hope you'll share what's been going on in your ham world. The Racy's Trading Net is a little bit more restrictive. Anyone can listen, but of course only Racy's appointees can check into the net. At any rate, it's a fun weekend. The rain and severe weather is past. Hopefully everyone's garden is blooming, and it's a great night for Skynet. NT5TM.
Okay, thank you, Tony. You saying Racy's reminded me, still need some detailed directions for the Racy's, Dallas Area Racy's Council meeting at City Hall. So please, if you could get those to me, or you could send them yourself to the group. We need to get that information out there so everybody knows where to go, when, and how to get into the facility. Thank you very much. Do we have any other news items? Or does anybody have any questions about Tony's news items? If so, please come now. This is Skynet, N5BB Net Control. Nothing Amateur Satellite Group, has 3 nets available to Dallas residents. Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. You can go to the National AMSAT net, and this is on Echolink. Under groups, you look for asterisk, AMSAT asterisk. You can also go to the live link, audio link at www.amsatnet.com. 2 local nets are available here for AMSAT, satellite communication discussion. Both of these nets encourage check-ins, and you can ask questions. The East net, which handles the Dallas kind of area, the Dallas-Fort Worth area, meets every Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. And that's on this repeater, 146.88, the BL tone of 110.9. This is on Tuesday evening at 8. Tom in 5HYP is normally the net control. All are welcome to check in. The Dallas AMSAT Net West meets every Wednesday evening at 9 p.m. On the Arlington 147.140 megahertz repeater with a PL tone of 110.9 and a positive offset. The Dallas Amateur Radio Club hosts a number of nets on Monday evenings at 7 p.m. Check the W5.FC website for more details. This coming Monday, which is the, let me see, it's the first Monday of the month, so it must be the Ham Fixings net, which deals with cooking and food. Yes, it's the first Monday of the month. So you will find that on Monday evening at 7 p.m. Then this coming Saturday, we'll have Skynet from 9 p.m. to 10:30. Before Skynet, we'll have TechNet. This is on Saturday night at 7 p.m. That's everything ham radio related. News, technical items, questions, buy and sell, you name it. So again, next Saturday, TechNet at 7 p.m., Skynet at 9 p.m., and then the Afterglow net at 10:30 p.m. where we talk about a movie. Tomorrow evening, we'll have the Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting on the air at 7 p.m., followed by the City of Dallas Races net at 8 p.m. Anybody can listen, but only Races members are allowed to check in because of FCC rules. This is N5BB, and this is Skynet. Every evening at 6:30 p.m. That's 6:30 p.m. Central Time on this repeater, you'll hear the National Traffic System Training Net. Where we move formal messages, kind of like radiograms. And then at 9:30 p.m. on the Irving 146.72 megahertz repeater, we will have the late session of that same traffic net. Again, as mentioned earlier tonight, we have well, it's really not a Russian movie, it's a Soviet movie. It's Orion's Loop from 1980. Tom, KU5ICX, if you're still here, I think you are responsible for this write-up. Would you like to tell us about Orion's Loop with your extremely accurate synopsis? KU5ICX and 5BB.
Well, thank you, Bill. I will do exactly that. Our movie is, and both Bill and Tony have mentioned it, is Orion's Loop, or The Orion's Loop, The Orion Loop. I guess it goes under both names, one for the year 1980 and the other for the year 1981. Pick your poison because it's the same movie. Anyway, here we go. The Russians had won the race to the moon, not by actually going there, but by putting out a Kremlin news release stating their achievement and the dubious fact that they had also built the largest shopping center parking structure on said moon. It was glorious. Of course, no one had a rocket powerful enough to send their Soviet-built automobile to our neighboring satellite, so their slightly fabricated story was safe to the average Earth-bound humanoid. This didn't trick the aliens, however, who were loitering at the edge of our own solar system looking for parking, and they weren't too happy about this discovery. The Phaeton, which spaceship, was immediately dispatched to engage the aliens. The spacecraft included robot doubles of the crew, just in case the human versions were distracted by terrible special effects, seducing alien advances, or American cigarettes. Three things always encountered on Soviet missions into the unknown. But before the crew could get full-on intergalactic with our new space aliens, the Orion loop was engaged, stopping our crew in their celestial tracks. Join us for the Soviet-generated theatrical brouhaha, Orion's Loop, from 1980, tonight at 10:30 p.m. By the way, it was co-written by Alexei Leonov. If that name sounds familiar, he was the first astronaut to actually do a spacewalk, cosmonaut actually. Just imagine what would happen if we had taken somebody who writes screenplays and let them pilot a spaceship. Kind of the same thing applies, only in reverse. Back to you, Bill, KE5ICX.
Okay. Tom, we have a problem right now. Echolink text is working, but there's no audio coming through Echolink. Anybody listening on Echolink cannot hear, which is probably why Bobby Joe and Jim didn't check in earlier. I didn't realize that until somebody texted there. So Tony, NT510, are you still here, and can you double check the Echolink audio setup? Are you still here, Tony? Well, he might be working on it right now. Maybe somebody. So the audio is working on the YouTube stream, but it's not working on Echolink. There's nothing coming through. So hopefully Tony is either listening or somebody will tell him, and he can go and make sure the radio's working over there. By the way, evidently you can listen to YouTube audio by going to the YouTube website and search for DARC Skynet. That's DARC Skynet, and you can listen, but you can't transmit. Okay. We will see if Echolink audio comes back. Sorry about that. You can keep up with all Dallas Amateur Radio Club events, nets, and activities going to the club website, w5fc.org. So I'm going to go back and double check on the online check-ins, see if anybody else is there. No. The last person there is still Bryant, K9AHO. So remember, you can check into this net several ways. You can get on Echolink, and we will see you there, although you can't talk right now. You can get on RF on this repeater, or you can go to www.w5fc.org. Click on the announcement for this net this evening, the link to do a online check-in. Okay, do we have anybody else that would like a check-in for Skynet? If so, please come now. This is N5BB, net control. and location, like city?
Yeah, my name is Richard, and I'm out here in Fort Worth, Texas.
Very good, Richard. We have some other people checked in the net from Fort Worth this evening. Welcome to you. Thanks for coming to our net. I hope you find it interesting. Okay. Now, let me move ahead. Now it's time for the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas. Chaz, KF5JHA, what do you say? This is Skynet, N5BB, net control.
Evening, everyone. This is KF5JJ and Bob the Cat. Oh, it sounds like I've got Echolink sound, at least for a second anyway. Echolink got reset on me just moments ago. Anyway, on April the 25th, 2025 will be the next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting. The meeting will be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas. And also, there's a Zoom component. The featured speaker is Dr. King at UTD. Her topic is going to be Cosmic Collisions. Okay, that's my title. I can't remember the exact title. Saturday night public observing sessions continues. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday night, so there could be an opportunity for live reports from the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas public observing sessions. On the first Saturday of the month, that would be tonight, stargazing is held at Fairview. Well, tonight's stargazing was canceled due to the clouds. You can check with the TASS website at texasastro.org for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. This is KF5JJ back to Earth. Net control N5BB. It's back to you.
Very good, Chaz. Yes, Echolink audio is working again. So Echolink got reset. So if anybody was checked into Echolink before, try restarting your Echolink client and checking back in, because it's working with audio now, at least on receive, definitely. Okay, so next item, by the way, this is Skynet, and this is N5BB, net control. Now I'm going to have the National Space Society events and activities. I happen to be the vice of the local National Space Society chapter. What is the National Space Society? It's a non-profit group based in the U.S., which is interested in the exploration and development of space and the creation of a spacefaring civilization. The big event each year for the National Space Society is the International Space Development Conference, ISDC. The next ISDC will be held in Orlando, Florida on June the 19th to 22nd of this year, and I will be there, as well as several other people from the DFW area. And it is an international meeting. There's usually a lot of kids there from Romania and India and some other countries, Japan and others. The North Texas chapter of the National Space Society meets at 3:30 p.m. on the second Sunday afternoon of each month. The meeting location is Spring Creek Barbecue on the southwest corner of Highway 183 and Beltline Road in Irving. The next meeting will be held on Sunday afternoon, April 13th. So it's not tomorrow, but it's a week from tomorrow. Our presentation topic for this meeting is not yet known. We have invites going out to some speakers, but we haven't got a confirmation yet. Our meetings are also available virtually over WebEx for free. Contact N5BB if you'd like to attend online. And you can always come and be a visitor at our meeting in person. Visitors are welcome. On the last Friday evening of each month, National Space Society North Texas chapter sponsors a social event called Space Rendezvous. The location is Cheddar's Restaurant, which is on Highway 635 in Irving. Anyone is welcome to attend and discuss human activities in space with us. No membership in any group is required. The last Space Rendezvous was the last Friday of March, and we had roughly 10 people there. The next Space Rendezvous will be held on Friday, April the 25th. Again, this is a social event. Come by, have something to drink and or eat, and have fun talking about the latest launches and landings on the moon and ISDC and all that kind of stuff. The local National Space Society, the local National Space Society chapter website is ntx.nss.org. On Facebook, you can search for National Space Society of North Texas. If you have any questions about the National Space Society, please contact Bill, November 5 Bravo Bravo, at my email address listed on QRZ, or at space@byrom.net. That's SPACE@BYROM.net. That's all I've got. Do we have any questions, comments, or additional check-ins? This is N5BB, and this is Skynet. Okay, I don't see anybody else on the online check-in. Now the audio is back up. Jim, a G5VW on Echolink. Would you like to check in on voice? And if so, when you come in, please tell us where you're located. G5VW. This is N5BB, Skynet.
Yes, AG5, Victor Whiskey. This is Jim in Dallas.
Very good, Jim. It was good. It's good to hear your voice. Welcome to Skynet. Hope you have fun this evening. Okay, next, let's go over to recent astronomical discoveries. Brenda, can you tell us about what's going on with studies about astronomy? This is N5BB, Skynet. Brenda, WB5OZL, are you still there? She must have some difficulties. Tom, KE5ICX, if you don't mind, could you read the first of Brenda's items, and we'll see if she can get back on? Yeah, I'll be happy to, Bill. Give me a second here. Okay, this article comes from Science News. Solar cells made of moon dust could power future space exploration. And it reads as follows. The same dirt that clings to astronauts' boots may one day keep their lights on.
In a study published on April 3rd, Cell Press Journal Device, researchers created solar cells made out of simulated moon dust. The cells convert sunlight into energy efficiently, withstand radiation damage, and mitigate the need for transporting heavy materials into space, offering a potential solution to one of space exploration's biggest challenges, reliable energy sources. The solar cells used in space now are amazing, reaching efficiencies of 30 to even 40%, but that efficiency comes with a price, said lead researcher Felix Lang of the University of Potsdam, Germany. They're very expensive and relatively heavy because they use glass or thick foil as cover. It's hard to justify lifting all these cells into space. Instead of hauling solar cells from Earth, Lang's team is looking to materials available on the moon itself. They aim to replace Earth-made glass with glass crafted from lunar regolith, the moon's loose, rocky surface debris. This change alone could cut the spacecraft's launch mass by 99.4%, 99% of transport costs, and make long-term lunar settlements even more feasible. Ideas. Researchers melted a substance designed to simulate moon dust into moon glass and used it to build a new kind of solar cell. They crafted the cells by pairing moon glass with perovskite, a class of crystals that are cheaper, easier to make, and very efficient in turning sunlight into electricity. For every gram of material sent into space, the new panels produced up to 100 times more energy than traditional solar cells. If you can cut the weight by 99%, you don't need ultra-efficient 30% solar cells. You just make more of them on the moon, says Lang. Plus, our cells are more stable against radiation, while the others would degrade over time. When the team zapped the solar cells with space-grade radiation, the moon glass versions outperformed the Earth-made ones. Standard glass slowly browns in space, blocking sunlight and reducing efficiency. But moon glass is a natural brown tint with impurities in the moon dust, which stabilizes the glass, prevents it from further darkening, and makes the cells more resistant to radiation. Making moon glass, the team found, is surprisingly simple. It does not require complex purification or concentrated sunlight alone. It can provide the extreme temperatures needed to melt lunar regolith into glass. By tweaking the thickness of the moon glass and the fine-tuning of the solar cell's composition, the team managed to achieve 10% efficiency. With clearer moon glass, that lets in more light. They believe it could reach up to 23%. Still, the moon poses challenges the Earth doesn't. Lower gravity could change how moon glass forms. The solvents currently used to process perovskite won't work in the moon's vacuum. Wild temperature swings could threaten the material's stability. To find out if their moon dust solar cells are truly viable, the team hopes to launch a small-scale experiment to the moon to test them out in real lunar conditions. For extracting water from fuel to building houses with lunar bricks, scientists have been finding ways to use moon dust, says Lang. Now we can turn it into solar cells too, possibly providing the energy a future moon city will need. This research was supported by funding from the Volkswagen Foundation for funding via the Zeitgeist Q14 program. And that's it. This article is from Science Daily and came out April 3rd of this year. Back to you, Bill, KE5ICX.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Tom. By the way, I wonder if MoonMade uses moon glass. This is something for us old-timers. If you read the Dick Tracy Sunday comics in the 1960s, you learned about MoonMade. But never mind. Okay, Brenda, are you back? WB5OZL in 5BB. Okay, Brenda says she's there, but Echolink isn't working. Evidently she can hear, but she can't transmit. So let's see, Tom, I think there's a second link for solar cells on the moon. Do you want to read that one also? KU5ICX and 5BD. This is Skynet.
This is the picture for the video, so continue on. I think you're up next. KU5ICX.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't click on that link, so I didn't know it was just an image. Okay. Next, you have to listen to me. First, before I do that, look for check-ins. I see that online we have one additional check-in, Clay, N5OS in Mesquite. Hello, Clay. Do we have any other check-ins to Skynet? If so, please come now. Nothing heard and nobody new on Echolink. So next we have the discussion topic of the evening by me, and it's the James Webb Space Telescope's next year of amazing science is revealed. But there's funding worries that loom large. So this is from Scientific American online. And the next year of science from the James Webb Space Telescope has been announced amid mounting budgetary uncertainty that could affect the unparalleled observatory. Again, this is written by Jonathan O'Callaghan, published April 3rd by, or maybe I grabbed it April 3rd from Scientific American Online. Launched in December 2021, after 3 decades of development and a cost of about $10 billion, NASA's James Webb Space Telescope, abbreviated JWST, is one of the biggest investments ever made in astronomy. That investment has already paid off enormously. The telescope is revealing incredible new details of the early universe, distant galaxies, potential habitable exoplanets, and even familiar objects in our solar system. By the way, just recently it imaged the asteroid that was initially thought to be in danger of hitting the Earth in a few years, and they were able to image it recently. So it's adding to the knowledge about that asteroid. James Webb Space Telescope is now on the cusp of its 4th year of operations, and researchers seeking to maximize the telescope's transformational science have unveiled its next planned swath of groundbreaking observations. But this comes amid increasing budgetary uncertainty in the U.S. and concerns that NASA might be forced to slash its science funding, which can include significant cuts to James Webb Space Telescope. It's up and running, it's been fully commissioned, and it's returning incredible science, says Paul Byrne, planetary scientist at Washington University in St. Louis. Webb is a marquee flagship program. If we have to cut it all, it seems like an absolute own goal. James Webb Space Telescope is located 1.5 million kilometers from Earth, well beyond the orbit of the Moon. Here, its giant gold-plated mirror can look unhindered into the cosmos, protected by a tennis court-sized sun shield that blocks our stars' light and heat. All this gives the James Webb Space Telescope unprecedented sensitivity to some of the faint wisp of light reaching us from the first few 100 million years, in which the first stars were kindled and galaxies coalesced. This is infrared light, by the way. But not all the telescope's achievements have come so far afield. Closer to home, it has captured the first views of the auroras of Neptune, taken images of planets around other stars, and helped scientists study neighboring galaxies to probe the limits of dark energy. This is N5BB, Skynet in progress. Every year, the Space Telescope Science Institute, which runs the telescope, enlists hundreds of astronomers to help choose where the James Webb Space Telescope's wandering eye should be pointed next. On March the 11th, they announced the latest batch of programs that had chosen for the telescope's next year of observations, Cycle 4, which runs from July 2025 to June 2026. In total, the allocation committee selected 274 programs from 2,377 proposals from 39 countries, an oversubscription ratio of about 9 to 1. About 8,500 hours of observing time were awarded, the most ever for James Webb Space Telescope. This is N5BB, and this is Skynet. That record-setting amount was possible this year because, unlike in the previous 3 cycles, Cycle 4 doesn't have a block of time reserved on the telescope for scientists that helped build the James Webb Space Telescope. In Cycle 3, we allocated around 5,500 hours of time to the rest of the astronomical community, said Laura Watkins, the head of the Space Policy Division. This time, we were able to give away more. The telescope time is split evenly across 8 subcategories of astronomy, including exoplanet science, galaxies, the solar system, and black holes. Most programs are awarded up to tens of hours of observation time on the telescope, but larger programs can be awarded more than 100 hours. 3 solar system proposals were successful in the largest category this time, Watkins says. This is a good year for solar system science. One of these programs will use James Webb Space Telescope to hunt for small objects down to 1 kilometer in size that orbit beyond Neptune, giving us crucial information on the amount of material in the outer solar system. Another large program will take another look at Uranus and Neptune and try to give us a better understanding of their mysterious magnetic fields. It's going to actually map out the magnetic field, said Heidi Hamill, an astronomer in planetary science at the Association of Universities for Research in Astronomy and a member of the program team. These will be the first magnetic maps made for these 2 planets in nearly 4 decades, after the flybys of each world by NASA's Voyager 2 spacecraft in the late 1980s. And this is Skynet in 5BB. Also in our solar system, when to turn the cooling fan on my radio. Also in our solar system, James Webb Space Telescope will cast its gaze on Jupiter to perform a rather stunning piece of historical investigation. It will study the gas giant planet for signs of an impact that captivated the world in 1994 when comet Shoemaker-Levy 9 crashed into the planet after breaking apart. That event briefly marred Jupiter's face with more than 20 giant dark spots, some of which were as large as Earth. Astronomers monitor them using telescopes including Hubble. James Webb Space Telescope should be able to detect water, carbon dioxide, and other comet-source compounds still swirling around the planet from the bygone impact, allowing researchers to better understand how the cometary debris was incorporated into Jupiter and how the giant world's atmosphere has subsequently recovered. Shoemaker Levy 9 is the gift that keeps on giving, said Hamill, who led Hubble's 1994 observations of the comet's impact. We're still using it to understand the dynamics of Jupiter. Wow, that's interesting. Another big winner in Cycle 4 is white dwarf science. The study of stars like our Sun that have exhausted all their fuel and left just a dense, dead stellar core behind. 8 programs on these interesting objects were chosen, and Mary Ann Limbach of the University of Michigan is involved with 5 of them. We had a great cycle, she says. I'm really excited. One of her programs will investigate whether white dwarfs could support habitable planets. Experts think planets can endure the end-of-life phase when a sun-like star becomes a white dwarf. But it's unclear if climate conditions could still persist upon rocky worlds like Earth and the star's shrunken habitable zone, where liquid water would exist, or could exist. Limbach will use James Webb Space Telescope to seek out rocky Earth-sized planets in the habitable zones of 2 white dwarfs by looking for telltale infrared glows around these stellar corpses that might indicate the presence of such worlds. If there is an Earth analog in either of these systems, we should be able to see it, she says. If it's on the larger side, we should be able to detect carbon dioxide, maybe even a hint of ozone. This is Skynet in 5BB Net Control. One of the most enduring mysteries discovered by James Webb Space Telescope so far has been a strange class of unexplained galaxies in the early universe called little red dots. That's right, it's abbreviated LRD, the acronym, little red dots. They appear very red and compact, suggesting they might be extremely dense clusters of stars or perhaps burgeoning supermassive black holes that are growing into the behemoths found today at the centers of large galaxies. Such is the allure of LRDs that in Cycle 4, a half dozen separate programs have been chosen to study them. One of them is led by Anthony Taylor of the University of Texas at Austin. He will use James Webb Space Telescope to probe the light coming from LRDs to discern if it comes from stars or the white-hot accretion disk that surrounds feeding black holes. They have really grabbed everybody's attention, he says. With James Webb Space Telescope, we have the tools to attack these things. But perhaps the hottest research area for James Webb Space Telescope concerns planets around cool, dim, red dwarfs, or M-dwarf stars, which are slightly smaller than our Sun. In some respect, red dwarfs are ideal planet hunting targets because they make up the majority of stars in our galaxy, and the worlds they harbor tend to be easier to see through the relatively dim stellar glare. One such red dwarf planetary system, TRAPPIST-1, has 7 Earth-sized worlds, several of which are in the star's habitable zone. There's a catch, however. Red dwarfs are also more prone than our Sun to dramatic outbursts of stellar activity that might easily strip away planetary atmospheres to render otherwise Earth-like worlds essentially uninhabitable. This is in 5BB, Skynet in progress. Early observations from James Webb Space Telescope have found fewer atmospheres on red dwarf planets than expected, perhaps a result of the volatile relationship between these planets and their stars. In several Cycle 4 programs, James Webb Space Telescope will study more of these worlds in search of their atmosphere. One of these programs, led by Jacob Lustig Yeager of the Johns Hopkins APL, we'll look at 6 planets around 3 red dwarfs in an attempt to define a cosmic shoreline of how big and far from its stars such worlds must be to support an atmosphere. The first order goal is to figure out which planets have atmospheres and which don't. But the stretch goal he has is to help identify targets to search for signs of life in future James Webb Space Telescope observing cycles. Most if not all, good candidates will be transiting, meaning they cross the face of their star as seen from Earth, a favorable backlit orientation that can allow more details about their atmosphere to be seen. Catherine Bennett of Johns Hopkins, meanwhile, will use James Webb Space Telescope to look for an atmosphere on a world called LDT 1445AB, which at 23 light years away is the closest known rocky planet transiting a red dwarf. The planet is likely too hot to support life, but could still be an important test case for improving our understanding of which worlds can have an atmosphere. We'll be able to tell both the composition and thickness if there is an atmosphere, she says, and perhaps even the planet's surface pressure as well. This is N5BB, Skynet. In March, James Webb Space Telescope revealed snapshots of 4 gas giant planets around a larger star more similar to our Sun. Such direct images are hard to come by because of how faint planets are against their star. But James Webb Space Telescope can spot big, warm worlds that are sufficiently far from their stellar host. William Balmer of the Space Telescope Science Consortium Institute, which led these observations, will lead another program in Cycle 4 to image another gas giant around a nearby star that orbits at a similar distance of Saturn around our Sun. Balmer hopes to observe ammonia there, which could offer insights about how the planet's atmosphere operates. We're really curious about how the chemistry works on these other planets and other solar systems, he says. James Webb Space Telescope may also be able to possibly see water clouds on the planet. All these programs represent just a small fraction of James Webb Space Telescope's immense and diverse science. Although in human terms the observatory is now only a toddler in age, the James Webb Space Telescope is entering its prime. Engineers and scientists are finally feeling familiar with its unique limitations and abilities, which is why rumors of looming budget cuts for the observatory have shocked the astronomical community. It's in its prime mission, says Casey Dreyer, Senior Space Policy Advisor at the nonprofit science advocacy organization, the Planetary Society. Cuts to James Webb Space Telescope's bottom line might reduce its operational capacity, Dreyer says, something that seems unfathomable given the amount of time and effort that's gone into building and launching this incredible machine. Already the impacts of budgetary pressures are being felt as part of the Trump administration's sweeping shakeup of U.S. federal spending. Limbach says that scientists awarded observing time on James Webb Space Telescope are getting funding by the STSCI to run their programs that's equivalent to about $5,000 per hour. In Cycle 4, however, the amount of funding on offer is likely to be more constrained. Usually, if you have a program where the science is particularly difficult, you can ask for more funding, she says. This year, there's a hard limit. Without adequate funding, it would be hard to do the science to the quality we have been doing it, because we won't have the manpower, she says. There's a lot of science that will get left out. In previous cycles, astronomers have found out by July or August how much funding they will receive for their programs. This year, more than ever, there will be an anxious wait for that to happen. This year, no one knows, Limbach says. There is a lot of uncertainty. And that's the end of that article. Sorry it was kind of long, but I thought it was very usefully interesting. This is N5BB, and this is Skynet. Let's look here. I don't. Oh, in addition to Clay N50F, I see Antonio AG9SG in Dallas. Welcome, Antonio. Does anybody else want to check into Skynet? If so, please come now. This is N5BB.
This is KJ5, JUQ. Calling Cisco.
Okay, I think it's KJ5, Juliet Uniform. Is that correct? And what was your name again?
It's Kilo Juliet 5, Juliet Uniform, Quebec. And my name is Hugh, it's H-U-G-H. I'm in Frisco.
Got it that time, Hugh. There was some noise in your first transmission, but your second transmission was excellent. KJ5JUQ. Hugh in Frisco. We got you, Hugh. And let's see. N5LIG, Dale, have you checked in yet?
Good evening. I should have checked in online via the web form, but yep, I am here. Dale, N5LIG.
Okay, Dale, yeah. I now see you. You checked in much earlier. I just forgot. Sorry about that. I saw you on Echolink. Welcome, Dale. We appreciate you participating, at least listening to Skynet. Okay, does anybody else want to check in to Skynet? This is N5BB, Net Control. Okay, Chaz, KF5JHA. Are you Chicken Little? What's up, Chaz? This is N5BB, Skynet in progress.
The sky is not falling. This is KF5JHA Chaz. We call this segment of Skynet What Is Up? Because it's all about what's gone on astronomically over the past couple of weeks and what's going to take place over the next couple of weeks and probably beyond too. That was slide number 2. Slide master, slide number 3, please. We've talked about the predicted nova of the star T Corona Borealis, which may erupt at any time. Currently, it's a brightness around 10th magnitude, which is much too faint to be seen with just your 2 eyes. But when it goes nova, T Corona Borealis could become as bright as 2nd magnitude, which is the same brightness as the North Star. I can see the North Star with just my eyes from my very light-polluted location here in Mesquite. Slide master, slide number 4. This image, I believe, was Thursday, April the 3rd, from spaceweather.com of the sun. By the way, if I'm talking about different images, that's the YouTube version of Skynet. Yes, you actually can see things that's going on. Now, the large sunspot complexes on the sun at times are so that you can use just your solar eclipse glasses to see them. Now, the sun is near its 11-year solar maximum. We're not quite sure when the solar maximum will occur until after it happens. I've talked about the solar cycle about 3 months ago on Skynet. Yeah. Slide master, slide number 5, please. April the 4th was when the moon was at its first quarter, so the current phase of the moon is a waxing gibbous. The full moon occurs on April the 12th. Let me see. On April the 13th, the moon will be at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth, at a distance of 406,295 kilometers. On April the 20th, the moon's phase will be third quarter. On April the 27th, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth, at a distance of 357,118 kilometers. The moon will be new on April the 27th. Slide master, slide number 6, please. Here's my marathon of several different slides all at once here. On slide 6, on April the 5th, there is a conjunction of the moon and Mars and the bright star Pollux in the evening sky. Now, I'm not saying a direction because they're nearly overhead, so that's where you need to look. Wait, April the 5th, that's tonight. Forget it, there's too many clouds in the sky. Slide Master, slide number 7. On April 6th, tomorrow night, you could observe the conjunction of the moon and the star cluster M44, also known as the Beehive star cluster in the evening sky. Now, just with a pair of binoculars, you can see the Beehive star cluster easily from inside the city. Slide Master, slide number 8. On April the 8th, and a few days from now, the moon and the star Regulus are in conjunction in the evening sky. That'll be toward the eastern part of the sky. Slide Master, slide number 9. In the early eastern morning sky on April the 9th, the planets Saturn and Mercury are in conjunction. Slide Master, slide number 10. On April the 12th, the moon and the bright star Spica will be in conjunction in the southeastern evening sky. I might have to check that. Slide Master, slide number 11. On April the 16th, the planets Mercury and Neptune will be in conjunction in the eastern morning sky, being less than 1 degree apart. Now, you'll need a telescope to be able to see the planet Neptune. Not even binoculars will do. You need a telescope. Slide Master, slide number 12. On the same morning, on April the 12th, in the same time, in the southwestern evening sky, so in the opposite part of the sky, you can observe the conjunction of the moon and the bright star Antares. And this is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 13, please. Now, do any of you out there in Radio Land have a question or need a fill on any of the information? Or maybe you just have a general astronomy question. Come now with your call sign if you have a question or need a fill. Okay, hearing nothing. Slide Master, slide number 14. Says the moon waned last week. So do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for a world. It's the only one where humans live. Well, at least right now. And until next time, actually I'll be doing another segment on Skynet in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet, broadcasting on the W5FC repeater at 146.88 megahertz. Back to our net control. Bill, it's yours.
Okay, Chaz, just a small correction. We're not broadcasting. That would be illegal. Part 97 of the FCC regulations expressly prohibits broadcasting on amateur radio frequencies. We are transmitting information of use to other amateur radio operators. We are not broadcasting. Thank you very much, Chaz. I'm going to be clear there for anybody listening. Okay, this is Skynet, in fact, BB Net Control. Do we have any additional check-ins? Okay, I don't see anybody else on Echolink or on the web form. Next, Tom, KE5ICX. How about some space exploration news? Do we have astronauts going over our poles for the first time in 5BB Skynet?
Yeah, thank you, Bill. And what a surprise. I have something on that. SpaceX private Fram-2 astronauts splash down on Earth, ending historic polar orbit expedition. The SpaceX private Fram-2 mission splashed down on April 4th at 12:18 p.m. Eastern Time, softly parachuting down into the Pacific Ocean off the coast of Oceanside, California. The return wraps up about 3.5 days spent in space, completing the first crewed mission to fly a polar orbit around Earth. Maltese cryptocurrency billionaire Chang Wang funded Fram-2 and served as mission commander during his crew's training and spaceflight. Chang is joined by fellow polar explorers Jannik Mikkelsen of Norway and designated Dragon commander Riva Ragi from Germany as mission pilot, and Australian Eric Phillips as mission specialist and medical officer. A SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket launched the quartet from NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida on Monday, March 31st, sending 4 spaceflight rookies into the north to south trajectory in low Earth orbit at an altitude of about 271 miles. From their novel perspective, the Fromonauts were able to witness Earth's poles like no astronauts have ever have before, and spent the past 3 days documenting and sharing that view with the world. Next up, James Webb Space Telescope, which we were just talking about at length, finds a spiral galaxy about 5 times more massive than the Milky Way. Scientists are calling it the Big Wheel. A team of astronomers at the University of Milano Bianca have uncovered a colossal spiral galaxy that existed just 2 billion years after the Big Bang, which gave birth to the universe some 13.8 billion years ago. Nicknamed Big Wheel, it is in fact one of the largest galaxies ever observed from this early cosmic era. The scientists found Big Wheel near a quasar, which is a powerful and active supermassive black hole, using James Webb's Space Telescope. The galaxy lies 11.7 billion light years away from our corner of the cosmos, and its given nickname comes from the remarkably fast rotation and huge size. It's 5 times more massive than the Milky Way. For context, stretches across 100,000 light years. More specifically, the astronomers and new spectroscopic observations with the JWST's near-infrared spectrograph to confirm that Big Wheel is a rotating disk. The galaxy's rotation curve, an important characteristic of spiral galaxies, shows a pattern typical of a flat rotation curves seen in mature galaxies. The velocity of the galaxy's rotation increases as you move outward from the center, reaching a maximum rotational velocity of several hundred miles per second, which is also similar to the much more developed galaxies. Now on to space birthdays. We have March 31st, 1957, Patrick Forrester. He flew STS-105, 117, and 128. April 1st, 1946, William Fisher, who flew on STS-51I. On April 3rd, 1926, Gus Grissom, who flew Mercury Redstone 4, Gemini 3, and was crew on Apollo 1. On April 5th, 1949, Judy Resnick flew STS-41D, STS-51L. April 5th, 1950, Franklin Chang Diaz, who flew on STS-61C, 34, 46, 60, 75, 91, and 111. Now moving on to this week in space history, we have the first experimental weather satellite was launched. The TIROS program, or Television Infrared Observation Satellite, was NASA's first experimental step to determine if satellites could be useful in the study of Earth. At that time, the effectiveness of satellite observations was still unproven. Since satellites were still a new technology, the TIROS program also tested various design issues for spacecraft instruments, data, and operational parameters. The goal was to improve satellite applications for Earth-bound decisions, such as should we evacuate the coast because of a hurricane? That's something I would like to know about. Let's see here. Next up, 1958, April 2nd, President Eisenhower proposed the creation of what is now NASA in an article of draft legislation sent to Congress. He originally proposed to establish the National Aeronautics and Space Agency, built around the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, or NACA. The word agency was changed to administration on behest of Elaine Galloway, who worked for the Congressional Record Service. She believed that the administration with an administrator would have more power than a mere agency with a director. After hearings that spring, the legislation was passed, and Eisenhower signed the National Aeronautics and Space Act into law on July 29, 1958. NASA began formal operations on October 1st, 1958. And here's one near and dear to everyone's heart. Also on April 2nd in 1968, the film 2001: A Space Odyssey premiered. It was produced and directed by Stanley Kubrick with a screenplay by Kubrick and Arthur C. Clarke. The film's premise of an extensive space infrastructure, including a large orbiting space station staffed by international crew members with regular trips to the lunar base, was visionary and highly optimistic at the time of great uncertainty. But some of the technological advances imagined have since come to pass. April 3rd, 1966. Luna 10 entered lunar orbit and became the first human-made object to orbit the moon or any other celestial body beyond Earth. The Soviet probe launched on March 31st, following the failure of a mission earlier that month, which never left Earth orbit. During operation, over the course of 56 days, Luna 10 gathered data on the moon's magnetic field, its radiation belts, cosmic radiation, and micrometeoroid density. Tracking data showed that the spacecraft's orbit was being distorted by irregularities in the moon's gravitational field, provided that first evidence that the moon's internal composition wasn't uniform. Last contact was made on May 30th, 1966. April 5th, 1973, Pioneer 11 launched to study the asteroid belt, the environment around Jupiter and Saturn, solar winds, and cosmic rays. It was the first probe to encounter Saturn, the second to fly through the asteroid belt, and the second to fly to Jupiter. Later, Pioneer 11 became the second of 5 artificial satellites to achieve an escape velocity, allowing it to leave the solar system. Due to the power constraints and the vast distances to the probe, the last routine contact with the spacecraft was on September 30th, 1995, and the last good engineering data was received on November 24th, 1995. April 5th, 1991, launched looks like I'm missing something here. The Compton Gamma Ray Observatory was launched on Space Shuttle Atlantis on STS-37. The Space Telescope made observations from Earth orbit for the next 9 years. It featured 4 main telescopes and 1 spacecraft covering X-rays and gamma rays, including various specialized sub-instruments and detectors, named for Nobel Prize winner Arthur Holly Compton. The telescope was part of NASA's Great Observatory series, along with the Hubble Space Telescope, Chandra X-ray Observatory, and Spitzer Space Telescope. It was the second to be launched following the Hubble Space Telescope. The mission ended on June 4th, 2000. And that's it, Bill. Back to you. KE5 ICX.
Well, thank you, Tom. Does anybody have any questions or comments, or do we have any additional check-ins to Skynet? This is N5BB, Net Control. I don't see any new people in Echolink or the web form. So, Chaz, it's back over to you. What's Miss Carolyn's constellation this week? This is N5BB, Skynet in progress.
Thank you, Bill, for correcting me, transmitting instead of broadcasting. I should have known better than that. Yes, this is KF5JHA. Slide Master, slide number 15. Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week is named in honor of Silent T, Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Now, since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year, out of the 88 total number of constellations, so Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. And in her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week this week is a twofer: the Sextant, and Hydra the water snake. Slide Master, slide number 16. One of the most important parts of Skynet, the jokes of the week. Okay, Billy is over here on Echolink. She should be able to answer some of these questions. What do you call a snake that is 3.14 meters long? No, it's not just a long snake. 3.14 meters long. Give me a moment. Yes, that's true. Python. 3.14. Thank you, Billy. What do you call a snake who works in the government? A civil serpent. Which are the best mathematicians among the snakes family? Okay, Billy, you've got another one. She's a math instructor, that's why I'm asking her these questions. What's the best mathematicians amongst the snake family? I'm waiting. I'm sure she's got the answer. Okay, I'll do it. The adders. What is a snake's favorite subject in school? History. Oh no, Bob, don't walk on the... he's trying to walk on the keyboard. History. What did the snake give to his wife? A good night hiss. What do snakes use to clean their car windshields? Well, they use windshield wipers. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 17. I'm going to shoot Bob the cat away from the computer. All right, there weren't too many jokes about Sextant, so anyway. Sextant is a constellation name for the Sextant, an instrument used to measure stellar positions and oftentimes used for celestial navigation. Sextant is a more modern constellation named by Helvius, who named it to commemorate the loss of his own sextant, which was destroyed in a fire in an observatory in September of 1679. He was originally named the constellation the Sextant Urania, the Sextant of Urania, but the name was just shortened to the Sextant. Urania, or Urania, was the muse of astronomy. How about that? Slide Master, slide number 18. Alpha Sextans is the brightest star in Sextans, shining at a magnitude 4.49, which is kind of faint. Can't see that, at least from my place here in Mesquite. It is the only star in Sextans that's brighter than 5th magnitude. It is a white A-type giant, approximately 285 light years from the Earth. It lies less than a quarter of a degree south of the celestial equator. Beta Sextans is a blue-white B-type main sequence dwarf located approximately 406 light years from the Earth. It is slightly variable. It varies from magnitude 5 to 5.1 in a 15-day period of time. Slide Master, slide number 19, please. NGC 3115 is nicknamed the Spindle Galaxy. It's best known for a deep sky object in the Sextants, and the only one in Sextants discussed in detail in the Burnham Celestial Handbook. Robert Burnham Jr. wrote that NGC 3115 was originally thought to be a flattened elliptical galaxy of type E7, but the Palomar 200-inch discovery of the flat equatorial plane surrounding the nucleus led it to be reclassified as an S0 galaxy, perhaps an E7 or an S0 transitional galaxy. Today it is generally classified as an S0 lenticular galaxy. Slide Master, slide number 20. Sextant's dwarf spherical galaxy is a low luminosity dwarf galaxy that is the satellite of the Milky Way, discovered fairly recently in 1990 It is the eighth magnitude, it's the eighth dwarf galaxy of the Milky Way. It's about 290,000 light years from the center of the galactic center. It shines at a magnitude 12, which doesn't sound very faint for a challenge object until you realize its light is spread over a 90 to 65 arc minutes in size. Definitely DMIO, which stands for David Moody Imaginary Object. He's an amateur radio operator, but he's not here locally. It's probably only observable photographically. I guess that's something I need to try to use on my C-Star, try to capture it. Sidemaster, slide number 21. Sextant A is a dwarf irregular galaxy located 4 million light years away. It is a member of the local group. In photographs, it is an interesting square shape. Yep, it's square shape. It has a visual magnitude of 11.9. It's only 5.9 by 4.9 arc minutes in size. So there's one way to be able to, you need to have a big light bucket to be able to see it. Sextant A was discovered by Fritz Zwicky in 1942. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Sidemaster, slide number 22. We'll start talking about Hydra for a few moments. Hydra is the water snake. It's the largest constellation in the sky. It occupies an area of 1,303 square degrees in the nighttime sky. It lies in the southern celestial hemisphere, stretches across 102.5 degrees. The constellation was first cataloged by the Greek astronomer Ptolemy in the 2nd century. Hydra constellation is usually associated with the second of Hercules' labors in Greek mythology. Hydra was a giant multi-headed creature. In mythology, Hydra had 9 heads, and one of them was immortal. The celestial Hydra is depicted with only 1 head, presumably the immortal one. Sidemaster, slide number 23. Alphard, which is Alpha Hydra, the brightest star in Hydra, at magnitude 1.96. The name Alphard is derived from the Arabic word meaning the solitary one, which is appropriate because it is relatively isolated from other bright stars. It's also known as Core Hydra, which means the dragon's head. In a telescope, Alphard appears to have a yellowish tint to it. Sidemaster, slide number 24, please. Messier object number 83. The Southern Pinwheel Galaxy, discovered by Nikolai Lassell in 1752. Messier added it to his catalog in 1781. Current estimates place this galaxy at 15 million light years away. Though it's a face-on spiral, it appears to have an oval shape instead of a circular one in the view through an 8-inch telescope. Using averted vision with some modeling, just starting to hint at some of the structure is visible at 84 power in the telescope. Sidemaster, slide number 25. M68, globular cluster, discovered by Michel in 1780. Messier added to his list shortly afterwards. M68 appears fainter than most Messier objects. M68 is not a M13. M13 is a very famous globular cluster in Hercules. It is in an 8-inch telescope, but only starts to resolve. At first glance, you can only take a handful of individual stars if you take a look at it. Averted vision will help bring more stars out. Sidemaster, slide number 26. M48 is an easy-to-find open cluster in binoculars or even a finder scope. You just need to use low power at 40 power in an 8-inch telescope to see all of it at once. While observing this star cluster, your mind might be connecting the dots and drew a roughly triangular shape for the cluster. Many of the stars in the cluster make interesting pairings or shapes. This is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Sidemaster, slide number 27, please. There are a few more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation Sextant, the Sextant, and Hydra the water snake. I've given you just a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has, at last count, 74 different observing programs. Most of them have about 100 objects. Now, if you observe just 10 of them, in a month, well, then you can earn a serving certificate and a pen in about a year from the Astronomical League. And Flight Master slide number 28, that is Miss Carolyn's.
I'm completely operational, and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
The Sextant and Hydra, the water snake. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for their research and words on deep sky objects that I've used, borrowed, and steal for every Skynet. I oftentimes use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Now, next week, we'll take a look at Centaurus, the Centaur, and this is KF5JHA saying goodnight in 73. Back to our net control in 5BB.
Thank you, Chaz. We're running out of time. Do we have any additional check-ins to Skynet? This is N5BB net control. Okay, Tom, I'm going to skip the remaining sections, but I'm just going to describe one of them, the first one, since it's so interesting. We don't know exactly when, at Vandenberg Space Force Base in California, Firefly Aerospace, this is a Texas company from Firefly Aerospace, located near Austin, a Firefly Aerospace Alpha rocket will launch Lockheed Martin's LM-400 satellite bus to low Earth orbit. So the satellite bus, this is a demonstrator from Lockheed Martin. The satellite bus is something neat. You can order a satellite bus from Lockheed Martin and put your satellite in it, and it'll do everything else. So it'll handle the communication and all kinds of other things, and you can concentrate on what's unique about your satellite. So several companies are offering satellite buses, and now they're being launched on Firefly Aerospace Alpha rockets. Okay, that's it for the net this evening. I haven't counted up how many check-ins we had. Let's see if I can figure this out. Oh, it doesn't show me. Just a moment. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4. We had about 25 stations participating in Skynet this evening. I would like to thank everybody for their participation. And I'm trying to find the script here. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. for Skynet. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations. Send email to nets@w5sc.org. You can also go to w5sc.org and find out how you can find links to other places. Until next Saturday night, this is N5BB. I'll be closing a net and returning an amateur repeater for normal amateur radio use for a few minutes until the afterglow net. 73s, everybody. Enjoy the evening discovering the universe. Tom, K5ICX, who's net control for afterglow this evening? This is N5BB.
Well, thank you, Bill. It probably will be me. So everybody come back in about 5 minutes. That gives you 4 minutes and 1 minute to spare to go make some popcorn, microwave popcorn. So go do that. Come back 5 minutes. We'll be discussing the Orion Loop or Orion's Loop from 1980 or 81. You pick which date you think it actually came out. We'll be back in 5. This is KE5ICX.
I'm just testing my Echo link, and I guess it's working. For
Well, your identification did not come through, but we heard whoever that was. This is N5BB.
This is KF5JHA. I was just checking to see if it worked.
It's working, Chaz. That's what you get when Bob the Cat is running your computer. Is Bob a cool cat this evening, or is he getting all excited when Skynet's in operation and you're busy?
I was paying more attention to the computer than him. I was ignoring him, so he decided he wanted to climb on the keyboard, and I had to shoo him away right in the middle of some transmission. So that was funny. KF5JHA.
Okay, Chaz. N5BB clear, waiting for the Afterglow net, where we'll discuss a very weird Soviet science fiction movie. Very weird.
All right, you're making popcorn's over. Get your burnt popcorn, bring it over to the radio, put it on next to the microphone, and remember, things get sticky when you eat the popcorn. And operate your radio. So this week's Afterglow movie is called The Orion Loop, or sometimes referred to as Orion's Loop, from 1980 or 81. We don't know which. This is a Russian film. Actually, it's a Soviet film from the Soviet science fiction director Vasily Levin, I guess. Cosmonaut Alexei Leonov. Yeah, that Alexei Leonov, the guy who was the first guy to walk in space, together with Valentin Selevinov, wrote the film's screenplay, which might explain why it's so bizarre. At any rate, let me go ahead and read the plot to you, such as it is. You may need this because I have no idea. I couldn't figure this thing out. So we're discussing the problem of first contact with extraterrestrial civilizations, which, by the way, is interesting because one of those scientists is Ostrovsky. I have one of his books called Intelligent Life in the Universe. It was co-written with Carl Sagan in, I think it was 1964. It's a prized tomb in my collection. At any rate, when I saw him, I was kind of jumping for joy. At the boundary of the solar system, powerful radiation arises, which drives the astronauts insane. The phenomenon is called the Orion Loop. To investigate this phenomenon, the Soviet ship Sextant, with its mixed crew of people and cybers, androids designed by cybernetics, Scriababin, is sent to Earth on a United Nations mission. Sent from Earth on a United Nations mission. Robots can withstand extreme conditions, and in order for the crew not to be distracted by outsiders, they are made as team doubles. I didn't make any sense to me, but okay. Having reached the destination, the crew comes into contact with holograms, envoys of an unknown alien civilization which lived thousands of years ago on the 10th planet of the solar system. Earth is threatened by a serious danger, the galactic virus RZ, causing a glass disease, GLASS disease, not to be confused with anything else you thought you heard. The aliens are trying to save humanity by sending a stream of relic neutrinos from their planet to create an energy barrier around the Earth, namely the Orion Loop that protects people from viruses and disease. Communications with aliens is dangerous for the crew since the radiation of the hologram acts directly on the human brain. Because of the powerful radiation, 2 cybers have been lost. Navigator Augustus goes into outer space to reconfigure the ship's protection, but receives extensive brain damage, as did the director and the writers. Dr. Masha, not to be confused with Marsha, cures him with the help of medical technology of a psycho-contact, which she developed together with her mother, Anna Petrovna, who died in the process of experiments, or went insane, who knows. The cybernetician interprets alien intentions as hostile and wants to destroy the Orion Loop. He hurts the commander and tries to reboot the computer to change the flight mission, but causes a short circuit and dies, damaging the electronic circuitry and robot doctor. The commander decides to go into outer space and go through the center of the loop to prove its harmlessness to people. As a result, his wound heals completely, leaving no traces. A meteor shower damages the engineer's bay. Engineer Mitya's robot twin tries to open an airtight door, endangering the lives of the rest of the crew, but Mitya deactivates it in a few seconds before depressurization. The team thinks that he has died, but the aliens have time to save him, surrounding him with an energy cocoon. The envoy finds a way to communicate safely with the crew. They say, "We come in peace. All these worlds are yours except for Europa." At any rate, the ship returns to Earth to prepare it for contact. And I just read that, and I still have no idea what this movie was about. Hopefully you figured it out, or maybe you can explain it to me, because I was totally dumbfounded. I even stayed awake through the whole thing. I read all the credits. I read all the subtitles. I still didn't get it, but that's okay. But now it's your opportunity to check in and tell us all you know and what you thought about the film, if you did see it. If you didn't see the film, you probably don't want to see it, because it was not that good. So, I will now take check-ins. The rules of the game. We go through, get check-ins, we ask if you've seen the movie. If you've seen the movie, we ask you 3 different questions. first question on the first round is, what did you think about this story? The second round, we talk about the characterization and acting, followed by the third round, if we have time, which can be anything you want, but more specifically, probably because most of our films are science fiction, we talk about the special effects, music, and other great stuff like that. However, if you've got something you just want to say that you missed on the first two rounds, we'll give you that last opportunity in round three. So let's go ahead and get started. I will take check-ins. Please come with your call sign, your name. Did you see our film, Orion's Belt? No, what is it? Orion's Loop, not to be confused with Belt. Please come now.
This is Whiskey 5, Bacon, Lettuce, Tomato, W5BLT, and I am just listening at this point. I didn't understand anything in the movie, so I'm just going to listen, and that's it. Bill and Garland.
This is N5BB. Another Bill, in this case in Irving. And just as the other Bill, I didn't understand anything either. But I did watch the movie, and I'll make some negative comments about it. N5BB.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike. Tony and Dallas. My name's not Bill, but I have several Uncle Bills. I saw about 3/4 of the movie. Somebody's just gone crazy and started shooting at hallucinations with a laser blaster. So, I don't think I understand it either, but I've seen most of it.
This is November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth. I don't think I have any relatives named Bill, but I have some friends named Bill. I'm in Fort Worth, and I did see the movie, and I understood a little bit of the Russian in it, but that was about it.
This is WV5OZL. Stand by. Don't know what's happening on my phone, and I'm getting a lot of feedback, but yes, I saw the movie.
This is Whiskey 5, Golf Uniform, Sierra, Gus. I saw the movie.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey at Jade near Weatherford. Yeah, and I've seen a little bit more than 2/3. Got to the. So far, what your explanation jives with what I've seen. So I can't say I didn't understand it, but it was anyway. More on that later. KG5BCW.
Okay, well, let's see here. We got W5BLT, Bill. He is just listening. He didn't figure the movie out either. N5BB, Bill and Irving, yeah, he saw it. He's confused. MT5TM, Tony, he's seen 3/4 of the movie. He may understand it. NV5F, Virginia, Fort Worth, yes, she saw the film and even figured out some of the Russian. I actually figured out some of the English. There were like 4 lines in actual English in the movie, and I I figured them out. Next up, it's Brenda, WB50ZL, with horrible feedback. Yes, she saw it. You may want to turn down your computer, my dear. I think it's coming back through the microphone there. W5GUS Gus. Gus is going to be with us tonight. He did see the movie Da, and KG5BZWJ near Weatherford. He also saw the film. Anyone else want to check in? Whether you saw the film or not, doesn't matter. Please come to your call name. Did you see it?
Kilo Juliet 5, Delta Zulu Charlie. Doug, I did not see the film, but I've been away from the radio for a while, and I figured I'd catch what I could this evening.
All right, that's okay. I did not see the film, but that's fine. KJ5DZC, can I get your name and I'll call you by name?
Name is Doug. Did not see the movie. Kilo Juliet 5, Delta Zulu Charlie.
Is no, you don't want to see this movie, but you may change your mind and say, this is the best thing since the last Soviet film I watched, which probably wasn't any, but anyway. Okay, anyone else want to check in? Please come in. Okie dokie, let's go to the top of the list. That would be, let's see, Bill said he's just going to listen for now. I may call on him to see what he thinks of, but we'll see. So I'll go to the other Bill, N5BB. Bill, explain this movie to us from KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. This is N5BB. The other Bill. It has nothing to do with Orion. I don't know what the loop is. That's the other word in the title. So the title is kind of meaningless. The plot was odd, hard to figure out. You had to kind of read between the lines, but what was between the lines was all scrambled. It was upside down and written Cyrillic characters, and you have to read from right to left, and it was just very difficult to understand what the heck was going on. What seemed to be going on was a galactic virus called RZ. Now, what is a galactic virus? I don't know. Is it harmful to humans? I don't know. Do you get a rash? I don't know. Does it melt your planet? I don't know. We don't really know anything about that. They concentrated on all kinds of other weird stuff, such as apparitions appearing out of nowhere that look like sometimes people's relatives and sometimes not. And there seemed to be some creatures that were humanoid. I guess they were humanoid. Their apparitions were humanoid. We don't know what they look like. And they seem to be at a planet, Diana, that used to be the 10th planet of our solar system, but it broke away. Where is it now? Wasn't clear. Are they still alive on the planet? Wasn't clear. Why do they care about the Earth? Because they're good. They're good guys. They want to protect us. By the way, the galactic virus R2 is a glass disease. That's right, GLASS. Does that help you understand anything? No. Just like most of the other things in this movie, any descriptions are useless. The names are useless. There seemed to be something about a wall, which usually couldn't be seen, although at one point some astronaut seemed to open up a hatch and pound his hand against it or something. This wall was somehow being supplied by these aliens, and it was supposed to protect Earth from this galactic virus. And somehow the Orion's loop was somehow related to this wall. But we don't know exactly how, because they didn't tell us. Again, it was kind of metaphysical, but it wasn't a straight science fiction movie because there was no science, and the fiction was horrible. I guess that's it for now in 5BB.
All right, well, thank you, Bill. I appreciate that somehow or another, a lot of times with these movies, my attention span is lost. I just sort of drift away or fall asleep or lose interest, and I tried very hard to keep watching this film. I kept looking at my watch, though, hoping it would end sooner. That's the longest 90-minute movie I think I've ever watched, or something like 60, 70, 80. I think it's 80 minutes, 82 minutes long, and boy, I felt every one of those 82 minutes. But at any rate, it wasn't me. It's true. This movie made no sense. Next up is Tony, NT5TM. Tony got 3/4 of the way through. Did any of that make any sense to you, this film? Maybe you can explain it to us up to the point that you stopped watching from KE5ITX.
Well, I really expected the plot was going to involve a great deal of confusion or rivalry between the aliens and their identical cyborg, the humans, as well, but aliens, these strange Soviet humans and their equally strange Soviet cyborg twins. Instead, that mostly just seems to have been something they did to save on half their actors. They did fool the hallucinations into talking to one of the cyborgs, I noticed at one point, instead of the human. And it turned out that the cyborg took longer to be driven insane by the intensity of the cyborg communications than the human, or the intensity of the alien communications than the regular human would. I did eventually sort of learn to tell the characters apart, so that was a plus. And really, I just felt like the plot was meant to be very inexpensive to shoot. They all seemed Solaris, and they thought, this is the way you make a cheap movie. You don't have aliens or a battle against the Empire. You use colored lights and, projections of eyeballs and women in long flowing gowns and things. That's the way you do it for cheap. And I think that was the overwhelming guiding principle of this movie. I think that our cosmonaut, Major General Leonov, really should have stuck to the visual arts, which Wikipedia tells me he was quite accomplished at, instead of screenwriting. I think there's a reason that this seems to be the only movie he collaborated on. I think we even get to see him in that montage of experts. I think he's the one in the uniform there, although he only had 1 star at the time. It dragged and was confusing, and the only game I could play with myself was learning how to tell the characters apart, and it just seemed to be driven by an overwhelming urge to be cheap. Now, speaking of cheap, on a happy note, to me that the Czech movie we were originally going to watch can't be watched on the Internet Archive. And in fact, it seems kooky and intriguing. So I'm probably actually going to watch that movie maybe tomorrow or Monday or whenever I next have time. I don't want to scald myself with tea, but I'm willing to watch a movie about it. NT5TM.
Telling me about that particular movie, I did watch. Following day, it was gone. So, okay, good. The Internet Archive has it. That is a good thing. I'll bet you that's probably where they sourced it originally anyhow. So, at any rate. Okay, thanks for your comments. Next up, Virginia, NV5S. Virginia, you have this all figured out. You speak fluent Russian. So, explain this movie to us from KE5ICX.
Oh, if only I could. No, I am not. I took a couple years of Russian in college, so it was just enough to kind of feel comfortable with, knowing what I was reading on the subtitles did somewhat correspond to what they were actually saying. But yeah, wow. So this did come after. This did come after Solaris, which I have heard a lot about but not ever seen. Shame on me. It seems like Solaris was kind of a Russian, attempt at something like 2001, and this seemed like something like an attempt at both of those and maybe every other science fiction thing between 1968 and 1980, except for Star Wars. It had everything but Star Wars. My Lord. There were some things about it that were distinctly Slavic to me, like, floaty fairy tale kind of images of ethereal people. I mean, I don't know, that kind of struck me similar to some weird Czech movies I've seen. It was confusing. I didn't understand it. It seemed like kind of a salad bar plot that was based on, hey, let's take an already existing location and try to make it into the interior of a spaceship. And of course, the inside of the spaceship was huge, which is always funny. And the characters were, I agree with Tony's theory of let's devil our actors for the money just by having everybody have a robo doppelganger. And of course you had a talking computer that was, kind of petulant and didn't want to do what he was told. At least he didn't try to study. So yeah, I wasn't quite sure what was happening. It was kind of a cross between science fiction and some kind of weird fantasy / fairy tale / telepathy, mind reading, psychology. It was just a lot of talking to me. It felt like the plot was almost all exposition, and and what you said about, it's hard enough to pay attention to a movie when you have to read the whole thing, and when the acting's pretty bad, and when the budgets are low, and then when the plot's just a jumble of nonsense with one good UN scene where, everybody is at the UN having a meeting, and you got to have that, because everybody's got to get together and figure out what to do about this alien glass virus threat. I'm not sure if it was the virus or if it was the Orion loop. I'm not sure what was the most threatening thing to Earth. I wasn't really sure what was happening. They did have the opening scientists talking, which was kind of ripped off from 2001. They were originally going to do that in 2001. So that feels like it was kind of ripped off. from that, and then it was ripped off again for the beginning of Interstellar. So Interstellar basically ripped off this and 2001, even though 2001 didn't use it. And that was kind of promising. It made it seem like they were going to try to make like a pretty good, believable space movie about meeting aliens. And so that made the whole thing kind of disappointing because you set up some expectations with these kind of credible people talking in terms of like what would meeting aliens really be like. So that was kind of a tease there that didn't pay off at all. And yeah, I wasn't quite sure. And it was the longest 82 minutes I've had in a long time. I was sitting through it and I was just like, man, this is long. So yeah, a little bit of an attempt at maybe some romance between some of the characters there, and lots of weird like 60s dream sequences. And to me, everything felt really dated. Like it made you realize how far behind us as far as just like the Soviets were. But that's maybe round 3 stuff. But yeah, wasn't sure what was really going on here. And I was really glad when it was over. And Alexei Leonov, shame on you. Stick to what you know how to do. Go walk in space or have a spaceship in another movie named after you or something in V5F.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Yeah, the Leonov was in 2010. Okay, or 2010, let's say it correctly, I guess. Okay, Brenda, W5OZL. Brenda, explain this plot to us from KE5ICX.
This is WB5OZL. First, can you hear me? This is WB5OZL. Can you hear me?
Yes, Brenda, we can hear you fine here on the repeater. I don't know about Tom. The first transmission was perfect. The second one, you couldn't hang up in 5BD, but we hear you.
Thank you. Everything goes wrong. It's the worst times. Well, I did something a little different. I watched the movie at greater speed. I went into settings and sped it up to 1.55. So I saved myself like 55% of the grief. And it was kind of amusing because all the Russians sounded like they were chipmunks, which is kind of entertaining. And it went through faster, so I didn't have nearly as much grief. It made more sense when I read the synopsis online. I kind of understood what was going on. I would never have figured it out by watching the movie. It's almost like you were watching something similar, but not quite the same. They just really failed at communicating the message. And honestly, it just seemed like a bunch of random stuff stuck together. Let's run over here and shoot somebody, and let's run over there and make faces, and it's almost like a caricature of acting in a movie. Everything was overdone and overblown, and nothing was believable. The sets weren't believable. The people weren't. I didn't really believe they were astronauts. And I just, sometimes you're just baffled as to why did anybody make this movie? Who thought this was a good idea? So I don't know. All right, I'm going to quit there. This is WV5OZL.
Okie dokie. Well, let's move on to Gus, W5GUS. Gus, your thoughts on the plot for our fine film, Orion's Loop. Orion's Loop, that's right. That's the name of the movie. Go ahead, from KE5ICX.
Well, thank you, Tom. W5GUS here. Well, I wasn't real impressed either. I'd give it maybe a 2 out of 5 of overall on the movie. The plot line was needed some help for sure. I was glad when the movie was over. Also, it did drag on. The same kind of scenes repeated. The plot was it was hard to follow. It needed something like a narrative, maybe that would talk you through what was happening. But it did make a lot more sense after you read the synopsis, Tom. I did kind of had a basic plot figured out. Basically, the world was in trouble. And that by the end of the movie, it had a happy ending. Earth will be saved, and so yeah, I'd give it a 2 out of 5. I wouldn't want to watch it again. I don't think, even with the synopsis prep. Well, that's about it as far as the plot is concerned. The synopsis really did help. So, okay, I have a couple other things. When their turn comes around for the characterizations, etc. Back to net, W5GUS.
All right, thank you, Gus. And I'm glad you got some notes for the rest of the net because I got nothing in. Next up is Jay, KG5BZWJ, near Weatherford. Yes, he saw the film. Jay, explain the plot to us, please, from KE5ICX.
All right, this is KG5BZW, and I don't know how much I can really add. I'm glad somebody, Virginia mentioned Solaris, but I mean, I was actually kind of hoping it would go kind of in a Solaris way, even though it's a well done, a well done. By well done, I mean like often done, I should say, trope. I've seen a lot of movies that are based on the psychology or dream sequences or whatever, and I was kind of hoping it'd be more along those lines, but no, it was understandable, but like why certain things were the way they were, why it's a glass virus. I just made up something. I don't know. I'm trying to remember when Superman came out. But I mean, didn't he get his memory back through some of the crystals that he had to visit? I want to say Superman got his memories through crystals and blah blah blah, and I'm just trying to make up some nonsense about glass viruses. So kind of like the glass being the optical storage device or whatnot. But whatever, it really doesn't matter. It's a MacGuffin. It's as far as I can tell, nobody knows. It's like, why is it a glass virus? Why is it a virus? What the heck? They actually did explain a little bit more detail, but about like the planet Diana and whatnot. Didn't it get destroyed? So yeah, no, they're Krypton got destroyed. Diana, something happened to it. So I think they did steal a few things from Superman, but there's not much. Like even the sequence where the guy gets electrocuted, there's supposed to be some sort of electrical field, and one of the androids is sent in to try to keep him from doing whatever, and that whole sequence is that whole sequence is just you observe it and you go, okay, I guess that happened. And a lot of the movie is that way. Really, a whole lot of the movie is that way. I wouldn't actually on a scale of horribleness, I would not rate this as exactly horrible. It is very long, and yeah, I actually literally caught myself. I was falling. I was watching it, and I was like, "Oh, this is so boring." And all of a sudden, I'd micro sleep, and I'd miss a key scene, and I wish I could have watched this a lot faster. But every time I watched it, I felt like I was missing the words. I don't know, on YouTube they don't have the words on long enough to be watched, so that the movie could be watched faster for me anyway. It did not annoy me like some movies do, but it sure was something else. And I'm just going to leave it at that because there's not much else explaining this movie. KG5BTW.
All right, thank you, Gus, and you didn't help me at all. I still don't know what's going on with this movie, but that's okay. Or did I say Gus? I meant Jay. I'm looking. Delirious, I guess. Okay, let's see. I'll make my comments on this one. Well, let me go ahead and ask. Anyone else want to check in before I make my comments? And then, Doug, if you're still out there, I'll ask you at the conclusion here, what do you think? Is this a movie you would watch? If you only knew what the plot was, but we're not going to tell you apparently. Anyone else want to join us? Please come with your call sign and your name. Did you see the film? All right, I didn't hear anyone. Okay, a couple of things. I did not understand the movie. I'll be straight up. That was just weird, the whole thing, the sequences, how it was applied. We know it was a misunderstanding, certainly, and but still, it didn't make any sense why the aliens were doing what they were doing. But that was part of the preface with Ioswasky was in there talking about, how would you contact the, aliens? And we've had movies that have discussed this. One of them, what was it? Arrival was probably the best that most captures the idea, the concept that this film had. in a more authentic way, and that is that how do you communicate? And you find that we're looking. You have to learn the language. You have to understand, in that movie, you had to understand the concept of time and nonlinearity, that things are happening at different times and out of order, which made it very difficult to understand what the aliens were trying to do, plus whatever they were burrowing in everybody's head. But at least in that case, you were getting a somewhat of a your hand is being held as you go through this, as the scientists try and figure out what the hell the aliens are trying to say. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, same thing. In that case, musical tones, musical language that somehow or another works well and is what they communicate, although it was never made clear why they suddenly decided they wanted to communicate with us at that particular time. What was the motive? What tripped it? And that was never explained, which makes it somewhat kind of annoying. So those things, I think, is what they were trying to do, and surprise, surprise, we thought they were evil, and they weren't. They were buds, and they were trying to help us out, trying to explain to us in the best way they knew how. So I guess maybe that was novel at the time, although 2001 was another film that did the same thing in a very novel way. So I don't know. Maybe it was another game. The thing that impressed me or depressed me about it is that it actually follows, and I realized on the timeline that actually Space 1999 came before this movie. And I think that's their inspiration. It felt like an episode of first season Space 1999, where they're trying to provide you with this mystery, and they're not going to offer you any sort of a solution. The science is going to be flaky, but it's going to be impressive enough that you're going to go, wow, I was impressed. Maybe I should try some more drugs or something. I don't know. Even the music had somewhat of that temperament as well, which, by the way, I did like the music, although it was not appropriate for this film so much, but it was well-done music. The guy who did it was a college dropout or something, and he went on to do scores and did a good job, but that's another story in another round. So I don't know, maybe that was the thing. If you would look at it like yet another episode of Space 1999, I suppose it would be a little bit better. But the super cheap special effects really made this movie look terrible, and it takes you out of any sort of engagement you might have. The only thing I could say that was nice is their living quarters, which was probably some college campus somewhere that they put portholes in, make it think you were on a spaceship, was pretty nice. And ludicrous speed. All right, I don't know if Doug's still there, but I'm going to ask JJ5DZC. Doug, you've heard the evidence. What say you? Innocent or guilty? Would you see this movie, or would you just leave it to die an unnatural death on archive.org?
Well, thanks for turning it back to me. And as someone who did not see the film but heard the critique in a real Siskel and Ebert sort of fashion, there's going back a few years, I don't think I would watch the movie. I'm a science fiction buff and reader from way back, and I think a couple of things occurred to me listening. I don't know if, what role like the visual narrative of the story. I was having a conversation with someone this week about how the visuals have to tell a story by themselves without the benefit of dialogue. And so sometimes when I watch a film and watch it again, I'll just turn the sound off and look at the imagery. And those images which come out of a storyboard that they typically build on a film or a video or something like that have a have a power, like a picture is worth 1,000 words, all in themselves, and it's very important that that lines up well sequentially with the script. And then the second thing that I noticed from the conversation is that pretty much everybody in the world now who watches movies, we're all familiar with the language of film, and in that sense, experts. And for some reason, I think that maybe, you know, Hollywood is a gigantic, ginormous industry. They're experts at telling these stories, but sometimes that gets lost when either the culture shifts out of Hollywood or, you know, the people who make these things who are not necessarily of Hollywood, but maybe watch the same movies that we all watch, and then they try it, and it just doesn't translate because that visual storytelling skill is not there, or maybe it's just that it's not there, it's just different. So, no, I don't think I would watch this, but I'm fascinated by the conversation, and so now, maybe on an off day when I don't have anything better to do, and I really like the person on this conversation who said they watched it at 1.5 speed. I might do that. I thought that was pretty cool to speed it up and watch it. And so my answer is I don't think I'm a fan of this movie, but maybe on an off day I'll remember this conversation and say, you know what, I better watch that Orion, what's his name? And tune it in. And maybe I'll watch it at 2.0 speed and then see kind of what happens. And so that's my take. I really enjoyed listening, even though I didn't watch the film. And next time I'm going to try darn hard to watch the movie. KJ5DVC.
Well, thank you, Doug. I love your comments. You've got to come back more often. You'll fit in with this group really well because we've watched everything and see nothing, and we've tried to explain films in much the same way that you just did too. And I love the way you say, okay, well maybe if I turn it sideways, maybe that'll help, you know. And sometimes it does. You never know, right? And you know we all go in with the idea that maybe we're going to see a good film. Maybe we're going to see something that makes sense to us, and then we watch it, and for whatever reason, the story isn't as easily understood like we're talking about this one, or something goes off the rails on the film, and you say, was that intentional? And then we have to ask that question because we can start second and third guessing ourselves along the way too. Because in science, particularly with science fiction films, you got to do the world building and you got to create the story and you got to create your characterization. Everything's got to be built from scratch in most cases. So when something comes out and it looks a little odd, the oddness to it is that deliberate, or was this because somebody screwed up and put an M where an N should have been, or something like that? And then sometimes the answers to those questions are much like the endings to movies, is we'll never know. We never was addressed properly, or we don't have enough information to find out. So thanks for the comments. I think that's great. Okay, well, second round. How are we doing here on Tell? We're doing fine on time. Next round is characterization. Oh boy, good luck with this. I can't tell a character's part. Well, half the characters were doppelganger robots, cyborgs. So you'll have to decide. So we'll go with, I'll go with Bill. The other Bill is listening, so I'll go with Mr. Bill N5BD. Bill, what do you think about characterization? I think you said you had some notes on that. Go right ahead from KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. This is N5BD. I was laughing at the comments from Doug. Doug, the other Bill is blind. So you described you're going to watch it with the sound off, and that wouldn't help the other Bill at all. The other problem is when you speed it up, this movie was subtitled, these little English card subtitles, and they were really just hints. So in other words, somebody says something, and there's a hint of what they said on the subtitle. I don't think it's really what they said. It's a hint, H-I-N-T. So, and they're very short. So in other words, somebody says, I'm not sure if we should be doing this. And then the hint says, not sure. And it goes on for about half a second. So if you speed up very much, you're going to get these subliminal little flashes. Tom, the movie may make more sense if we played it backwards slowly. It may work out better. Anyway, before I go to full-on characterization, which I have very little to say about, I want to comment more about the title of this darn thing, Orion's Loop. This is N5BB. There is a constellation Orion. In it, there's something which is called Bernard's Loop, which I think they're referring to. Because if you go online and look at the shape of Bernard's Loop, it's similar to this weird image they kept putting on the screen. For the other Bill's information, they put this image of an astronomical thing, which looks like Bernard's Loop, which is not a complete loop, it's kind of a partial loop. And it looks kind of like the letter, but it's between a C and a O. It's kind of a partial loop. Anyway, but this is, by the way, we don't know exactly the distance of Bernard's Loop. It's somewhere between 500 and 1,500 light years. We're not really sure. But this is obviously way outside our solar system. And instead, in this movie, this Orion's Loop was at the edge of our solar system. What? And then it appeared to be coming toward the Earth. What? And nothing at all about this outside our solar system thing that's Bernard's Loop and everything is related to the plot. So I think what they did is they grabbed some things that they had seen in astronomical news. Oh, somebody had some nice pictures of Bernard's Loop. That sounds neat. We'll talk about it. It's in the Orion's Nebula. We'll call it Orion's Loop. Why? Because they were just peeking things out. It's just like, let's grab this and put it there. Let's grab this and put it there. So I think they were just kind of putting some things together, accumulating them, saying, we're going to make a movie. It didn't work. Okay, characterization. What characterization? What did we learn? One of the crew members was trying to, well, in fact, his doppelganger, his android was trying to open up, one of them, his android was trying to open up to the outside and kill them all for some reason, which wasn't clear. I don't have a clue why that happened. They didn't explain it. That was the guy, was his name Mitya or something? And he appeared to was going to die, but in a dream sequence looking thing, which was way too dark to see. It was really dark during that part of it. The aliens somehow come and put him in an energy bubble and saved him. Made no sense, but they did it. So he seemed to be a good guy, although his doppelganger was horrible. There was another guy on there that was trying to sabotage the mission or something, and I think he died, although I got kind of confused. Something happened to him. Oh, he was the one that was trying to go in there and attack the computer, and he unscrewed one cable, and he connected to another one, and both he and one of the other doppelgangers, I think a medical one or something, They both got electrocuted and they fried him. Why was he doing that? We don't know. Why was he attacking the computer? We don't know. So there were these characters that did things for meaningless reasons, just to have something they could photograph, I guess. It made no sense to me at all. The other characters, there seemed to be a minor romantic interest, or maybe a previous romantic interest, between the doctor, or the woman, and somebody else, but that wasn't very clear. The captain seemed to be very brave, and he did something at the end to kind of prove that the aliens were okay, and I don't know. It was very unclear. Where did they get those characters from? What was their backstory? We don't know anything about them. We know nothing, except some of them we know they saw a vision of their mother or something. And we learned that the woman doctor, her mother had been in this experiment that failed and her mother died. But that seemed to be so unrelated to what happened in the movie. They kind of threw it in there as kind of like a flashback or something. This is in 5BB. The aliens, initially, some of the crew members were really suspicious of these aliens and thought they were trying to do bad things to us. By the end of the movie, these kind of three alien images that kind of holographically got displayed to these three crew members, the aliens seem to be good guys. Do we really know that? We're not sure, because the movie ended before we could find out for sure. But it seems like they told us they were good guys. I don't know. None of the crew members did we really like. A couple of them we may have disliked. Did we think any of them were really good people that were, well, maybe, slightly, the doctor and maybe the captain, but it was unclear. And I got very confused about their names and everything. And so, yeah, characterization, blah, in 5BB, that's all.
All right, thank you, Bill. Well, you're filling out the scripts and characterization with, which is sort of like, it makes sense. And the interpretation thing is interesting, too, as far as little bits and pieces. One of the things, I just going to interject this, because when they did the English translation for the film, I think this is done automatically. It's an AI thing or something. I'm not entirely sure about that, but I think it may be, because when they did the English versions, where people were actually the British ambassador and the Canadian ambassador at the United Nations, when they're speaking, what shows up in the subtitle and what they're actually saying in English, the little 4 lines of English in the whole film, are not the same at all. They're sensibly the same, but they're not the same word for word, not even close. So maybe that's what's going on, it's doing interpretation. Okay, next, Tony, NT5TM. Tony, characterization, my friend, you're up.
Well, I'm going to sneak in a round 3 comment here, or 2, because I'm getting very sleepy. I may not make it. One of Isaac Asimov's characters likes to say that violence is the last refuge of the incompetent. I think the people who made this movie would instead say colored lights are the last refuge of the broke. when you don't have any money, just shine a colored light on things and tell people it's magic. That's a special effect. No, it's not. Also, the exterior model of that spaceship made Mega Mage from Spaceballs look sophisticated and amazing. So that's my round 3 sneaky comments. For the characters, I did eventually, I think, start telling them apart, but it took a long time, and the movie was long and draggy, and I didn't find any of them very interesting. And yes, I was also perplexed by that. The Doctor was trying to do something to help other characters by something called psychoconnection, and her mother seems to have died in an experiment about psychoconnection. But what that was actually accomplishing, other than wearing an odd-looking headset and making funny little noises, it was very elusive. Like, what's this doing here? Here, let me try this therapy on you. What are you going to do? I'm going to poke you in the toe with a thumbtack. Why? I don't know. I just think it's funny. That's about the sophistication of that treatment. So I found the characters unmemorable, hard to tell apart. I found the effects awful, and yeah, there were some good Soviet films. There were some real classics. This was not one of them. NT5TM.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Next up, Virginia, NB5F. Virginia, you can talk about characterization. Don't forget, Alexei Leonov was in it very briefly from KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. Yeah, I guess the guys at the beginning who were the real people, they were probably the most believable because it was really them talking. So for one thing, I agree with what you said about Space 1999. I'm sorry, I forgot to say that. I thought that this was troping off of lots of different things. It was kind of a salad bar of, people just had a bunch of ideas and they were trying to cram them all into one story. And when you see movies like this, all I can think is that it's not really fair to assume that being able to tell a good story is a natural ability, because when I've always been a writer and I've always, liked to tell good stories, and I can usually tell a good one from a bad one, and I think it's just easy for people who have a good grasp on story to assume that everybody else does too, and it makes you quite incredulous at things like this. But there are lots of, concerted efforts with, budgets and as small as they may be, and actors and directors and production companies, and they still can't tell a story to save their lives. When I was watching this, as far as subtitles go, I think the subtitles pretty much lined up pretty well with the Russian. So I didn't see anything, that was just really out there. There was a couple things that weren't verbatim in the Russian, but you can't really translate verbatim. And boy, they were talking fast. And if Brenda could speed it up to 1.55, she must be a fast reader, because I can't read that fast. So hats off to her. I'm not that fast of a reader. But yeah, characters, I didn't have trouble visually, telling the characters apart. There was one guy with a mustache. There was one guy with a mustache and a beard. There was another guy who was clean-shaven. There was a dark-haired lady. There was a, I guess kind of a blonde-haired lady. I mean, I didn't really have too many issues telling the characters apart, visually, but as far as the interest in them or their personalities, this movie was just really talky. I didn't find that there was a whole lot of, to me, there didn't seem to be a lot of, I don't know, there wasn't any one character that seemed like the main character, and there, wasn't any one character-driven thing about it. You didn't really feel like there was anybody to get behind, or, there wasn't like I didn't just really feel like there was a character arc of any kind for any of these people, and it almost seemed like whoever's scene it was, they just did whatever exposition needed to be done for this convoluted plot that, despite the large amount of talking, didn't really make a whole lot of sense. And, just when they were doing one thing, suddenly they were doing something else, and then suddenly there was, an alien communicating with someone, or someone getting sucked up into a thing and then getting rescued, and then there was somebody. I just feel like if it was a good story, despite the language barrier, it would have been a lot easier to understand, and if there had been characters that we were supposed to get behind or care about, that wouldn't have been that hard to understand either. So the characters were kind of like the story. Everything was just kind of disjointed and mixed up, and like Tony said, there's this subplot about someone's mother dying and a psychological, the mind melding thing or whatever they were doing to try to help each other. I mean, some of that felt kind of like Star Trek. It seemed like some weird, Star Trek-y kind of things, and I don't know. But yeah, characters were. I guess the acting was fine. There wasn't any, ridiculous acting. It was just a lot of talking, and there was a little bit of crying that was kind of cheesy, but, just there wasn't a lot there to find and resonate with. I didn't really find myself caring about anybody, and I don't think the language barrier was the problem here. So, yeah. That's it for me in V5F.
All right. Thanks, Virginia. Next up is Brenda, WB5OZL. Brenda, characterization. You're on.
This is WB5OZL, and I think we got the movie's name wrong. I think it was Orion's Belt Loop. Would make as much sense as anything else. The characters were boring. I could tell the men from the women, but that's about it. I really couldn't tell people apart much. I didn't know really what they did for a job or how they did it, or and there wasn't much interaction between them. They just, there wasn't conflict or romance or joking or anything that you normally would see in a movie with you real people having real lives. So, obviously it wasn't very diverse, but it is Soviet, so, I don't know. There's just not much to say. There's just no meat on this bone. So, I am going to send it back. WB5OZL.
All right, thank you, Brenda. I think it's okay. We're all kind of searching for things to say and trying to justify our comments why we're saying them. Next up is Gus, W5GUS. Gus, characterization. I think you said you had notes. Tell us from KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. W5GUS here. Oh, just a couple notes. I agree with the characters. The characters were really kind of one-dimensional for the most part. I did like kind of started a development with the Doctor. I thought that was she was kind of one of the better characters there. And there was a crewman also that he 2 or 3 times he quoted the Shakespeare about more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than what you dream of, or however that quote goes. That was kind of getting, I don't know, that maybe had something to do with what the intended plot was supposed to be. Also, let's see, the alien, the father figure, the alien kind of father figure, kind of looked like Obi-Wan Kenobi. It just needed a hoodie, and he would have been a spitting image of Obi-Wan Kenobi. So, oh yeah, and Bill, you were second Bill, N5BB. Let's see, the guy trying to destroy the computer there. He I guess maybe protagonist, but anyway, he didn't trust the aliens. He thought they were out. It was a big trick, and they were trying to destroy Earth. So he was going to save the Earth, and that's what he was messing up that computer guidance with there. Let's see. I think that's mostly about it for the characterization. Yeah, that's it for this round for me. All right, back to net, W5GUS.
You see, you proved my theory here, which is that we're all grasping at straws. We're trying to pull more out of this film thinking we forgot something. We didn't forget anything because there was nothing to remember in the first place. This film was terrible. Let's just take it for what it's worth. It was terrible. And Alexei Leonov should spend time with aeronautics. Well, he's dead now, but he should just do, I think he's dead. If he's not, he should be. But there's nothing to say. The characters were kind of weird and undefined, and that would be the aliens were kind of weird and undefined. I think the cyborgs were kind of fun. They were jumping around kind of crazy, like something out of a mime thing. And I love the commander, who was it? Pavel Belov, or whatever his name was. And Commander, too, he was even better. All those faces he's making, I love that. So I like the cyborg versions of the people better. Plus, they dress nicer, too. I thought that was pretty cool. So, and I forgot to mention this in the first round, and that is, what are the cyborgs for? I still don't quite understand. If the cyborgs can do everything that the people can do, send the cyborgs. Then you don't have to worry about all this stuff. But then they wouldn't be able to communicate with the cyborgs, because what do the cyborgs know? They don't know anything. And so they would never have a story to tell. But it's neither here nor there. Why do this? I don't understand. I think it was Tony mentioned that he saved money on additional actors, but the fact of the matter is, they got too many now. Well, they got 3, 6, 7 on the spaceship, something like that. Well, including the aliens and all that. But I don't know. It just seems kind of crazy. Okay, that's my comment on all of that. Let's see now. What else we got? I guess that is about it. We have exactly 6 minutes left, so I'm going to go ahead and ask folks If you've got something on special effects that you've got to get out, or anything else about the thing, I'm going to go ahead and take your call sign, and then I'll take you in the order that I get the call signs, and then that'll be final call. So, if you've got something to say on round 3, having to do with special effects or not so special effects, or something that you missed on the first 2 rounds that you got to...
10-5 BD. W5 GUS.
BZW.
Okay, I got 3. I've got WS, KG5DZW, and I believe I've got Doug, KJ5DZC, and Doug.
N5BB.
NV5F.
NV5F, I've got you in there too. So 4. Let's start with Gus. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks again, Tom. W5GUS here. Well, for Doug, let's see. There were a bright spot or two. A bright spot. I did like the method that the aliens communicated with, like the holograms communicated. There was some creative, very primitive, basic, but effective lighting on some of them. Was I think when the first hologram appeared, the female she had a veil and a kind of a gossamer dress that she raised her arms with the light behind the backlight. It was pretty effective, primitive, but very hologram-like. And the method that they used to communicate to the humans, I thought was pretty good. I guess the aliens didn't understand or didn't realize at first that their method of communicating was killing the humans, but they did correct that. And I think that's a very effective way, instead of typing it out or something like that, to come into your brain, and use visuals that you have seen, like your mother or your ex-girlfriend or whatever. Break. Anyway, I thought that was a good way that aliens might be able to communicate with us and us with them. Let's see. So it's kind of similar to, let's say, 2001. What the aliens, we still haven't figured out exactly what the aliens, or I haven't, were trying to say or do with the humans that the human that existed there at the end of 2001. So I guess that's about it. Oh, the music. I enjoyed the music. I think was probably one of the better parts of this movie. There was pretty good music, but like you were saying, Tom, it really didn't go with the action. Break. But well, anyway, yeah, that's I guess another bright spot for this movie. Okay, I'm interested in hearing what the other folks have to say too. Back to Annette, and it was a lot of fun to actually see the movie and take part in the exercise this evening. Back to Annette, W5GUS.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Gus, for participating this evening. It's good to hear from you. KG5BZW, Jay, your final comments. Go right ahead from KE5ICX.
All right. Well, I don't really have much to say on characters, but I don't think that the special effects were absolutely terrible. It was kind of strange using, I mean, the double exposure for a lot of it. It was pretty obvious, but it wasn't terribly done. It was kind of weird having that footage of a dolphin or porpoise, I wouldn't know, splashing. They repeated that, just like they repeated the psychedelic eye and a few other things, which, yeah, others mentioned it looked dated, but it wasn't. I still could do the suspension of belief, and I also agree about the music. I don't know. Mainly wanted to put that stuff out there, even though I'm not really saying anything new. I'll head into the next person, KG5BCW.
All right, thank you, Jay. Next up, I believe it was KJ5DZC. That would be Doug. You're a real weak end, but I think I recognize the voice. So if it was you, Doug, go right ahead from KE5ICX.
Great. It was Doug, and I really just wanted to say I enjoyed this conversation, even though I didn't watch the film. And as I said earlier, I might now have to make a point as catch-up to be at the same place everyone else is. But I will watch the next film and look forward to that conversation, and then adding more of what I have to share about movie making and science fiction, which I love very much, with the group. And I thank you for plugging me into this conversation. That was my comment. Okay, 5DZC, Charlie.
All right, well, very good. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, and you certainly brought a lot of good fun comments tonight. So come on back next week. We'll be here. Next up, NV5F, Virginia, your final comments. Hit us with your best shot.
Okay, thank you, Tom. And before I begin my comments, Bill in 5BB had thrown his call in there too, so I think he wants to be on this round. My comments, yeah, I have the same old comments. I do think that after stuff like 2001 and Solaris, and then just the whole avant-garde, film attempts at film in the 60s and 70s, and things like Space 1999, I think this movie was just trying so hard to do that kind of mysterious, well, it's what it's whatever you decide it is kind of thing. And you can't just do that. You have to know what you're trying to say, even if it's going to be something that's well into the realm of being kind of self-interpreting for each specific person. It doesn't work if you personally, as a director, writer, filmmaker, don't really know what you're trying to say, even if you don't tell anybody what it is. And then that coupled with that failed attempt at that, coupled with the just general cheesiness, and I had to comment on this, especially after the I think it was a comment that Tony made about the Spaceballs ship. To me, the ship in this looked like something from Hardware Wars, which I don't know if any of you guys remember that, but I loved that one. That's one of my favorite short films of the late 70s, which was shown on HBO over and over and over again whenever they first started, and they didn't have a whole lot. They weren't showing a whole lot of movies, and then between movies, a movie wouldn't always end right on the hour, so they have to fill with short subjects. And Hardware Wars was one of the ones that I saw several times, and that's what the ship reminded me of. It reminded me of something from Hardware Wars. So that's about it for me. I am always amazed by how someone can be obviously trying so hard to imitate things that were quite advanced, and instead of focusing on one aspect of that to pay homage to, they try to do all of it, and it all just comes out bad.
Repeater, timeout for 15 seconds.
Meeting on the air first and third Sunday, 7 p.m., W5FC.
Timeout, timer, reset. Repeater enabled.
Yeah, we're at the bewitching hour, so after midnight, the timeout comes back on. I think it's like 2 minutes or something like that, so you have to drop carrier. But we're almost done. So I think we got most of it there, Virginia. Do you have any final comments? I think we lost your last, maybe a little bit of the last part of your transmission, the last, 30 seconds or so.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I thought I might have timed it out. No, I was talking about Hardware Wars, and then I was talking about how whenever someone tries to imitate a bunch of other good science fiction that's gone before, they don't really pick one thing to try to pay homage to, and they just end up making a mess because they're trying too hard to be like everything all at once, and it just turns into whatever this movie was. That's it, MD5S.
Yuppers, I think you nailed it on the head. Thanks for your comments, appreciate it. Bill, N5BB, you were called out, so we've got some additional comments. By all means, go ahead.
Thank you, Tom. This is N5BB. Yeah, it was a bad goulash of a movie. They threw everything in the pan, mixed it up, and it came out tasting horrible. The model was horrible. It looked like a kid's toy. It had a red flashing light on it, and it beat in time with the flashing light. That's how bad it was. It was really bad. Other things that were bad, comparably early on in the movie, they're showing a scene with these monitors, and there's all the beat note. You know, when you have a film camera capturing a TV screen, the frame rate problem, So there's all these horizontal bars going through displays. They didn't make any effort to put a static screen display up there so they wouldn't get that. So they just goofed that up and just forgot about fixing it. I couldn't figure out on the spacecraft, sometimes it looked like there was low or zero gravity, and they were trying to kind of simulate that. At other times, no. Most times, obviously, full Earth gravity. What's the deal with that? They didn't say. At some point, they're talking about the effects of something. I don't know if it's the Orion's loop or the virus coming in, but things are randomly disintegrating. And there's something on the wall, some object on the wall, it kind of falls apart. That was really goofy. That was really goofy. Some of the special effects, in place of them, they held their head. It was a headache. They didn't have to do any special effects. They just held their head. That was an okay special effect because it came off okay, but it was really cheap to do that. What else? The necklace. Put the necklace on, and somehow I couldn't understand what it did. Did it allow you to see visions? And then at some point they had some other thing like a necklace with some kind of image on it or some symbol on it. Well, what did that have to do with anything? The planet Diana was the 10th planet that got ejected. And the spacecraft name was Phaethon, and it was Orion's loop. They had these kind of mythological. Oh, they talked about, for some reason, the Griffon. What was that? Why did they even bring that up? These mythological things they threw in there for no reason other than they have something to throw in the movie. I guess maybe somebody was happy there, but I don't know who was happy with it. Anyway, horrible. N5BB.
Okie dokie. Thank you, Bill. Anyone else have any comments they want to bring? Please come to your call. Okay, next week's movie, write this down. You'll be so excited. It's actually kind of a science fiction-y Western. Welcome to Blood City from 1977 with Jack Palance in it. We haven't had a Jack Palance crap fest in probably 2 months. So Jack is back as a bad guy, this time playing the Yul Brynner role from Westworld. So who better can play Yul Brynner as a cowpoke than Jack Palance? So that's next week's movie. Welcome to Blood City. All that info's over on Afterglow Movie, 2 words, Afterglow Movie Facebook page, or if you want to send an email to me and I'll get you on our mailing list, which is my call sign, Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-Ray, KE5ICX@yahoo.com. Say, I want to be on the list, and I will send you this week's movie contact links and URLs and all that stuff. So that's it. I don't know. I may go to bed. I've been up all day. I've had a very long day. So we'll see y'all later next week. Take care. And remember to buy bonds. This is KE5ICX, now clear.
Hey, Bill, I loved the bad borscht, or the bad goulash there. That was good. W5GUS.